Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So far, we have looked into what is corporate governance. We have looked into the development of corporate governance in Malaysia, and then look into the corporate governance in the UK and US. You have all these things, the of the Act, and then now we go into the theories of governance. So we will look into the agency theory, next followed by the transaction cost theory, stakeholder theory, shareholder theories, and stewardship theory. These are all the theories that are being used to explain corporate governance. First one is agency theory. What is agency theory? It has been introduced by Jensen and Mackling in 1976, whereby it identified the agency relationship between the principal and agent. So whereby the principal engages the agent to perform some services on their behalf, and principal will normally delegate some decision-making authority to the agent. And then there are agency problems, which are adverse selection and moral hazard. So adverse selection is principal cannot determine if the agent performed the work for which he is paid. And moral hazard is whereby the principal is unsure as to whether the agent has performed their work to their ability due to self-seeking motives. Okay, due to the conflict of interest, so it gives rise to agency costs associated with monitoring, management, creating and implementing an effective incentive system. So these costs are being divided into three categories, which are monitoring, bonding, and residual. So the main focus of this theory is the selection of appropriate governance mechanism between principal and agent that will ensure an efficient alignment between both parties' interests and minimize the agency cost. So do you understand what basically is agency theory? What agency theory is all about? Okay. Okay, if you just Google what is agency theory, so it is a principle that is used to explain and resolve issues in the relationship between business principals and their agents. So you are looking at two parties, the principal and the agent. And then most commonly, this relationship is the one between shareholders as the principal and the company executives as the agent. So who are the principals and who are the agents? So the principals will be the shareholders as the owners. They are the principal, and you have the agent that is the managers or the business executives or the directors. So just go for any images just to show to you. So we go into this one, the principal and agent. Okay, so it's basically you have the principal. The principal is the shareholders or the owners. So you have these owners. The owner also have their own self-interest. So they hire the agent as the board of directors, the management, the company's executives. So they perform the work. They perform the work for the principal. So they also have their self-interest. Okay, so you want to align the interest of the principal as well with the agent, or align the principle of the agent with the interest of the principal. Or you can see here, you can have this one. That means, so what does the agency theory refer to? So it's basically you are looking at the principal that hires the agent, and the agent then perform the work for the principal. But what about the information asymmetric? Do you know what is information asymmetric? That means if something is symmetry, it is balanced. So if it is balanced, then the knowledge or the information known by the agent is actually the same as the information or the knowledge that the principal have. But in this case, you will have asymmetric information. What do you mean by asymmetric information? That means the information is not balanced. What do we mean by information is not balanced? That means who knows more about the company? Who knows more about the company? Who do you think? So it will be the agent. Why the agent knows more about the company? Because they are the one who involved in the day-to-day operation of the business. They are the one who manage the company. So these executives, of course, they know more about the company. But who owns the company? Who owns the company Are they the owner of the company? No, they are not the owner of the company. Who are the owner of the company? The principals. Okay, the principal or the shareholders are the owner of the company. But if you buy a share, for example, you buy a share in Petronas, do you involve in the day-to-day operation of Petronas? No, you don't. So, but you want to make sure that the company is, in the end, you want to have a return. As a shareholder, if you invest your money in a company, then you would expect something in return. So the return to the shareholder would be in the form of a dividend at the end of the year. If you are a loyal shareholder, you can have a dividend. So the dividend can be paid out of can be paid out of profit. So you want to make sure that at the end of the day, company is making profit. So the portion of that profit will be returned back to the owner in the form of dividend. Alternatively, as an investor, you would also want to have a capital gain. So capital gain means increase in the share price. If let's say you purchase the share price, let's say you purchase the share price at, let's say, 6. Just take for example, this one is the share price of Petronas. Although this is not a real time, okay, because I just Google it, this is not a real time, but basically it just give you some idea on what's the share price now. So it's about 15 ringgit and 92 cent. So over a day, so what happens to the share price? And then you can look into the over a 5 days, over a week, what happens to the share price? Over 1 month, what happens to the share price? Does it show an upward trend, okay, or a downward trend? So you want to know about the share price. If you purchase at, let's say, a certain amount, let's say you purchase at let's say you purchased previously at 15.62, and what happens if the share price goes up to 16.42, for example? So as a shareholder, you would expect that the share will go up. So as a shareholder, you expect increase in the share price. So if you can sell the shares, and then you can get a capital gain out of that. So generally, as a shareholder, you would want the company to make a high profit, low profit, and high profit. Of course, you would prefer a high profit. So you want to make sure that the company is making profit, and also because of the good the goodwill, or because of the various things that affect the share price of, okay, so you want the share price to increase. So you want to you want the prices to show an upward trend. So that's so as a shareholder, that is your expectation. But you do not manage the company. So who manages the company? So the agent has been appointed to manage the company on your behalf. So the agent, that is the business executive, the company's executives, or the board of directors, or the managers, they are being appointed. So they manages the day-to-day, they manage the day-to-day operation of the business. Okay, and then how do you know what have they done? So you know through the report. So that's why they have to report in a formal form that is known as the annual report. Okay, they disclose the information, all this information to the shareholders and various other parties through a report that is called the annual report. So back to this one, you have the principal. They also have their self-interest. If we have seen before, that means the principal, that is the owner, they want to have a high profit and they want to have capital gain. What about the agent? So they want a good reward for themselves. So that's their self-interest. So they want to have huge salaries, huge bonuses, and so on. And you also have this one, information asymmetric. So this one, the asymmetric information, that means the agent knows more about the company. So an important issue in performance management is determining the right price to pay for a service provided by another party. So the principal agent problem arises when one party, that is the agent, agrees to work in favor of another party principal in return for some incentives. So that means that agent that has been appointed, they agree to be appointed. That means they agree to work for the principal, provided that they have something in return. So what are their return or their incentives? Will be the salaries, the bonuses, and so on. So in other words, the principal agent problem or agency dilemma concerns The difficulties in motivating one party, that is the agent, to act in the best interest of another, that is the principal, rather than for his own interest. That means now you want to motivate the agent so that they work best, they perform their work to their maximum. So you want that this agent to perform their work to the best for the interest of the principal, for the interest of the owners. So both the principal and the agent are wealth-seeking economic men who pursue their own self-interest. They will both try to maximize their own utility, that means their own gain. The principal by paying a less as possible for the service, by paying as less as possible for the service received, and the agent by charging as much as possible for that service. So you have this, okay, you have this problem. So that's why you have this one, the agency problems, the adverse selection, and the moral hazard. Okay. And then you also have this agency cost associated with it, because you want to monitor, you want to implement an effective incentive system. So you will have this cost, or known as the agency cost. So what includes in your agency cost? That will be the monitoring cost, the bonding cost, and residual cost. So you can, I think you have also learned this in your other subjects as well, in your FAR subjects. Then it's basically the same, so you can refer it back to all these things. And then the main focus of this theory is the selection of appropriate governance mechanism between the principal and agent. So that will ensure an efficient alignment between both parties' interests. You want to make sure that you align the interests between the principal and the agent. At the same time, if you talk about the cost, of course, you want to minimize the cost. You don't want the cost to increase. So that's why you want to minimize this cost, and this cost is known as the agency cost, the monitoring, bonding, and residual cost. Okay, with that, I thank you.